Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another crowdfunding preview, and today we're talking about Vineyard from Pencil First Games, designed by Roberta Taylor, Eduardo Baraf, and Catherine Waddle. And I do apologize if I mispronounced any of those names. Now before I get started, please make sure you turn your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that's where you'll find the corrections. Additionally, I do need to point out that this is still in the prototype phase and is subject to change. Now what this game is this is a worker placement tableau building action selection game in which you are doing your best to work with your friends around the board to make the best wine that you can. And I will point out that these are actually standees, but as always, that is not nearly as interesting as that, so I've taken them off the standee basis. And what you're going to be doing in this game is each round you will be selecting one of your action cards here, which is going to tell you where you're going to move one of the friends around the board from place to place. And you can move any friend you want on your turn. However, it's important to note that they always must move. And I will get into the details of how that works in just a bit, but you'll be moving to the different spaces around the board and carrying out those actions, eventually creating more wine, which you will slowly age, and then you will load onto the truck and send it off. And when the current round's truck is full, as denoted by the number of barrels down there, you will score that round, and then you will flip out the second truck card, and that will cause you to change some of the train cards out there and have access to different barrels and so on and so on. And you'll move on. After 3 rounds of that, the game will end. Whoever has the most stars will be the winner. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, so I'll jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. So as I mentioned, you will be moving your workers around the board. Again, they are shared workers, they're always out there, and taking different actions. And briefly covering the different actions, we have the greet action up here, which will allow you to interact with any of these train cards here, but if you interact with the first one, you're going to get a bonus. And these cards do things like, you may immediately upgrade one friend with a $2 discount, peek at the next truck card and add 1 heart to any wine in the cellars, and then do an age, earn $2 for doing a tour, and you can move 1 heart to another available space at the same location, and so on and so on. And some of those other actions will make sense as I go through this. Then here we have the cultivate action. And what cultivate's going to do is it's going to allow you to pick up one of the grapes and move it to the side, and then you can slide any other token into its space, and optionally you can then slide another one and then put the other grape back like so. Then you will pick a row or a column, and you will flip all of them over like so. I'll point out that these here, these sprouts, when these flip over, they become wild grapes. And then you place 2 hearts on 2 of the different tokens that you just flipped over. Then we have harvest, and for the harvest, you're going to get to pick 1 color of grapes and then collect all of the grapes of that color that are orthogonally adjacent to each other. So in this case, this is a bad pull, but let's just say that it looked like this here. And I'm just going to put a few more hearts out here for just a moment and move some of these around. And so let's say that it looked like this here. Well, I could call red, and then I could take this red, this wild, this red, and this red here. And then I would pick which crush bin I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to put it in right here. And then because I moved 4 grape tokens, I would then get to add 2 of my own hearts into the crush bin, not on a grape. Then I'd go to the bag here, and I would refill the board. And that brings us down here to make wine. You can make 1 wine barrel. And so we take a look and we see this here needs 3 red grapes, and I have that here. And I'll point out that on the other side is often more grapes. So if it was like this, I'd actually have a choice. I could either use just this one here, but then green would not get to take its heart with it, or instead perhaps I use this one, and this one instead. Then in addition to that, anybody who has hearts in there gets to move 1 on to the barrel, and whoever actually took that action gets to add a heart as well. We'll say that was green, and then it would move right down over to here into the cellar, and then you would replace it. And as you go through the game, you get more and more complex barrels. I'll put out a number 3 right there, which this one will actually also give you a point if you were to make that one. We can come down here to the age wine, and we'll just pretend that this is the setup that we have right here. So when you go to the age wine, you get to move all of the barrels from the middle over to the far right, and all the barrels from the far left into the middle. And then if you move 1, 2, or 3 barrels, you get to add a single heart onto one of the barrels that you moved. And if you moved 4 more barrels, you get to add 2. Over here, we have the load action, and then you are loading up the trucks. And so you must move 1 barrel over, and then you can optionally move a second barrel out of the far right into the load area. And then eventually, as I mentioned earlier, when you have reached 4 barrels, you will then score. So let's just say that these are the 4 barrels that have scored. First thing that will happen is everybody that has a single heart on a barrel will get a point. So in this case, yellow is going to get 3 points or 3 stars, while green would get 4. Then we look at the scoring condition on this particular truck, which is additional 3 stars if you have the most hearts on all the loaded wines, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for yellow, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also for green, which means both of them would get 3 more stars. And as you play through the game, you'll see that there are different scoring conditions on each of the barrels. Then over here we have the paperwork action. First thing is it's going to allow you to pick up all of your cards that you've played, and I'm about to explain exactly how that works, but just remember this. And for every card that you pick back up, you'll get paid 1 coin. So if I pick up 4 cards, I'd get paid 4 coins. Then you're allowed to do upgrades, and there's a couple of kinds of upgrades that you're able to do. The first is here on your player board. You can pay your coins to unlock these abilities on your different friends, starting from the top to the bottom. So I could pay 2 coins and unlock this right here. Then I could pay 3 more coins and unlock that one right below it. And as you can see, each of the different workers, as you go through the game, is going to get more and more powerful at specific types of actions that you're going to be able to take. The other thing that you're able to do is you can buy upgrade cards from the side of the board. And again, they're going to have their cost. They will tell you what they do and what type of action it's going to be. So for example, the early riser, you could do a harvest action and then make wine. And you're going to use these and replace one of the cards in your starter hand that has one of the symbols on it as well. So you're always going to have 7 cards in your hand. Now let's talk about how you're going to be taking actions throughout the game. When it comes to your turn, you're going to pick one of your action cards, which all relate to all the actions that I just named, and you're going to put them out onto the board underneath one of the friends. And then they will go and take that action. Now the trick here is you can never place a second card under one until all of the friends have taken a single action. Then you can start placing second actions down underneath the friends, but you can never place a third underneath a single friend. And then when you play your paperwork card, then you will recollect all of your cards and start the process again. And so that's how this game works. You're going to play through 3 rounds, and whoever has the most stars at the end will be the winner. So what do I like about this game? The first thing is it is very simple to learn. The rulebook is very good, so it's really easy to learn, pick up, and understand. And for a game that is a lighter game, that's how it should be. So kudos to Pencil First, I guess, for doing what you should do. But so many games do not have a rulebook that is this clear and this simple, so hooray. Next thing I'm going to say is getting into the actual gameplay. I really enjoy the way the shared workers and the card limitation works in this game, because there's a lot of worker placement games out there, but the way this one works is you're using the same workers and they always have to move, and then you're limited by when you can play a second card on an individual worker, and each worker is developing powers as you go. It really makes for an interesting puzzle and a fairly unique feeling game as you're doing what is worker placement tableau building, but it just all kind of comes together into a light game that feels different from any other games of that weight that I've played. So that, I think, works very, very well. And the other thing that I think this does is it makes the game feel crunchier and heavier than it actually is. Because of the decisions that you're making, it really adds a level of thought and puzzle and crunch to the game that you just don't usually get in light games that you can play in about an hour. Also, I've already alluded to the upgrades that you can do. And the benefit to these upgrades is it does make each subsequent play feel a little bit different, because what are you going to upgrade this time? And even down to each player board, they have all the same powers, but different friends are able to activate them on different player boards, so even that keeps the game moving in a way that I think is very clever, because what it means is, as players unlock abilities, they're going to be trying to send different friends to different spaces to make use of their powers. So you don't have, what could happen is whoever can get to it first. Rather, everyone's trying to use the different friends to do different things, which means they're going to keep on moving throughout the game. And I think that is very, very clever. I also will call out specifically, I really like the cultivation puzzle, that kind of like old school kind of little 3x3 grid that you're moving the things around. We used to have those little puzzles that you had a picture and you'd move the squares around until you made the picture. It's very simple, but I think it works quite well in just a different vibe for a game. And then when you combine that with the train cards, which you're not going to use all the time, at least in my opinion, but when you do, you're going to usually use them to do something that's going to help you kind of get back into the game. And I think those two pieces in particular are quite clever in the way that they, again, make this very light game feel like it's a little bit heavier than it actually is, in a good way. And then the last thing that I think works particularly well in this game is the tension of when do you do something that might potentially set up one of your opponents, or when do you wait and hope that they will do it? And so what I'm thinking is doing a harvest. You might be able to do a great harvest that's going to get you a bunch of hearts and do a lot of things, but it's going to set up that winemaking maybe for one of your opponents. And so there's a real tension there of, is that what they're going to do? And because of the way the tableaus work, you can do a quick scan around the table and be like, oh, okay, well, their make wine's already out there. Yes, maybe they've upgraded a card or something, but you can kind of scan, and so you can kind of say, okay, I'm going to push my luck here, or nope, I'm going to wait and maybe they'll do it for me, or I'm going to do something else and come back around to this when I can buy a card that's going to maybe let me do a harvest and a make wine or something like that. So it's a very interesting tension that's there, and I think that works really well also. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, as I often say with light games, it's a light game, and so the replay of the game, even though subsequent plays do feel different because of the powers you're unlocking and because of the different player boards and all of that, I think the real replay comes from playing a lot of times, especially people who have already played before, because then the real fun, I think, starts to be now you're playing the players as well. You're playing the game, but then it becomes like, okay, this is a player that is conservative, so I can maybe take this risk with them. Or this player, they're a loose cannon. I got to be really careful with what it is that I'm doing so I don't potentially give them something that they can kind of chase and take from me. And I think that's really where the interest of the game is going to come. And I think the lightness of the game, the puzzle of the game, lends itself to that. But that is not something that everyone is looking for, right? In this hobby, we often take a game, we play it 3 times, and we're done. Well, I think with this, again, light game, you're going to want to play it 10, 11 times, and while you're going to get it halfway through the first game, or maybe even faster, you're really going to be able to get the true joy out of it in successive plays. So that just has to be a commitment that I think you want to make to the game. And I think, again, with a 60-minute game, it's not that big of a commitment, but again, just something to be aware of. Now, I'm going to end with 3 quibbles that I have with just some of the production choices on the prototype. It's highly possible that these will change, and if you have the Klingon subtitles on, you may see something right now that says, these things have been changed, these have not been changed, and also it might just be a me thing. That said, first off, the cheat sheets that tell you what all the actions do, they're missing key information. For example, the cultivate action, it says on the cheat sheet, you can slide one of the grapes in that little puzzle. But you can actually then do it again if you want. You can slide one and slide another one to fill that and put the first one back in a spot, which I did demonstrate in my rules overview. But it doesn't say that. And that is a key piece of information. So I really hope they get all the key points into that cheat sheet, because it's super clear in the rule book, not super clear on the cheat sheet. The next one is the icons on the board that kind of show you what you're going to get when you do the action. To me, and to Mrs. Hungry Gamer, they're not clear. Again, it seems like there needs to be a little more clarity. Again, that might just be I can't read them well. I don't know. But that, like with the cheat sheet, it's so clear in the rules, I want a little more clarity on that board to remind me what's going on. And the last thing is, when you load the trucks, you have these huge barrels that you're kind of moving over, and you have the grapes on them, and the hearts on the grapes, and the hearts on the... Fine. Love how easy it is to read those. Perfect. But as you move them over, you're sometimes getting up to 4 of them just in that little spot waiting, and it's just weirdly crowded. It takes a clean looking board and makes it look messy. So honestly, I really wish there was just a little truck sideboard. You space, put the card there, and it had drawn out 5 of those little kegs or barrels, whatever, and as it goes there, you just move it right onto that board, shows you right there what's going to happen when it scores. It could even have down at the bottom a little reminder, you're going to get 1 point per barrel that has a heart on it, etc., etc. And it would clean it up, because again, to me, the board looks so clean and nice until you get that mess in the corner towards the end game. But there you have it, folks. I did not know what to expect from this game, and as I've alluded to, I was very pleasantly surprised with the complexity and the puzzle that this game has, because I just didn't expect it to be there, and along with the interesting worker placement, the shared workers, I'm very pleasantly surprised by this game. I think if you're looking for that cozy style game, that's the big buzzword nowadays, this is a cozy little wine-making, worker placement, tableau building game that I think is worth your time if you are into cozy games, light games, and especially if you are willing to put in the plays to really start being able to kind of master the game and then start playing each other. But there you have it, folks. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments or the timestamp so I get there and click on subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.